education and career opportunities. The guys who are still studying right now, he wants to get a job in Bahrain. What do you think he should do? Is it really hard, or like, what's your opinion on this?
The Middle East has been a very major part of, cultivating careers, especially for Asian communities for a very long time. People do not move here for education purpose. For career opportunities, yes, it's a great place for you. It's like a stepping stone if
Right.
you want to move ahead in your career. And basically, it's much more affordable to move into Middle East from India or other Asian countries than to other Western nations because you build up your career here, you can gain
Right.
experience easily here, and then you can move on if you have, for example, you want to move to Australia or New Zealand, UK, Canada.
It's been about an year for me in Australia, and what I've noticed is the career opportunities. It's based heavily on the people that you know. It doesn't matter you have the best degree. It doesn't matter you have the best experience. They don't care about that. All they care about who you know, as in your references. So an employer is much more likely to hire you if you are friends with their current employees, and that is how most of the employment is done in Australia. And you ask any employee or any student here in Australia, he'll 100% tell you that if you want to get a job, you have to start networking with people. It doesn't matter how good of a resume that you have. Online applications just don't work here. That is the current condition. So if somebody wants to study or if wants to come to Australia and they don't have anyone here in Australia, if they don't know anyone, then they're gonna struggle really hard because they won't have that edge that somebody else might have if their father or if their uncle or someone who is already in Australia.
I would say that is the same case in even in the Middle East. Especially, it has become like that in the Middle East right now because of a lot of influx of people and because of globalization. Basically, you need to know people in the companies to get into a good. Of course, you'll struggle if you do not know people, and I think that's become part of most of the countries around the world. It's not just based on one or two countries.
Right. Okay, so our next question is, if somebody wants to come into Gulf countries, what are their options and how much would that cost them? Because that's a huge factor when it comes to exploring a different country or trying to get an opportunity. Because I've heard people going to Dubai for 3 months on a visit visa, but they still don't get the opportunity, and at the end of 3 months, they come back to India having nothing. And then when they don't get the opportunity in their respective field, they end up selecting something which will give them some kind of a job which is not even relevant to their field, and then they end up becoming something else that they didn't want to in the first place. And a lot of these times, I think Gulf countries have huge contracts. In Dubai, I've heard people like, at least you have to work there for 1 year or 2 years, and they put you in a contract, and you can't just leave freely. And if you want to go back, then you'll have to pay a huge amount to get rid of that contract to your sponsor, and that becomes a challenge because then there is always a pressure from your family as well, who has spent so much money to send you there.
We cannot generalize all the countries into one, and you need to look into the visa rules and regulation of those particular countries that you're applying. More opportunities are available for the people who are already present in the country. Regarding the expenses, like I said, it depends. People do find jobs, odd jobs here easily, and nowadays people, they in most of the countries, this has become a norm that they go ahead and if they cannot find the position of their liking, they start or they just go ahead and take up an odd job and then they work their way from there because this is how people, and especially the new generation nowadays, they start to earn money because it has become so competitive everywhere in the world.
Hmm.
It's not only in the Middle East that people are just fighting to just get whatever they can. And then they penetrate into the market and they get opportunities and they work their way up. Living expenses here are not that high, so you can manage by very easily. It's pretty affordable here. So expenses will not be that high.
Okay,
And
so if it is not that high, I mean, how much it is if you're talking in suppose in rupees. So generally, if you are living alone by yourself, as in somebody who is working in one of these countries, uh, if you're living with a family and all that, that is a different expense. But if you're living alone, you don't have a wife, you don't have anything, you're single, bachelor.
If you're
uh,
coming here as a bachelor, approximately in rupees, if you say about in Indian rupees, if you convert about 20-25,000 a month, if it's just you and your
and that includes everything: food,
that
accommodation.
includes everything. Yeah,
25,000.
everything.
Here in Australia, it's a complete whole different picture. Living expenses are really high because, so if I convert that into rupees, just rent would be somewhere around 25,000, 30,000, and that is not a separate apartment for you. That's probably a sharing room, or a single room, but that is still not very near to the city. At least $500 per month for rent. Another two
Australian dollars.
Australian dollars, $500 at least for rent, $200 for his food expenses, about $100 for his travel expenses, and then another 100 to 200 depends on his other bills, his shopping or anything in general. So if you're talking roughly, that is bare minimum of $600 to $800. That's the bare minimum that you will be paying.
Opted for visa in these countries are visit visas. But the UAE has UAE and Bahrain approximately has about the same visa amount as approximately about 5 to 6 thousand rupees. That's for a visit visa for a month.
That is good to know. Okay, so our final question. This is the fifth question in this interview series. So this question is: what is the future stability, or if there are any permanent residency options in these countries? Because I know in Australia or in any of the Western countries, you invest so much money, you study here, you find a job, you go through so much struggle, but you at least have this hope that at one point you might just become a permanent resident, and then you might just become a citizen like every other people here. And there are a lot of people who got permanent residency and citizenship here, who are living great lives, right? So there's always this one factor where you feel like, okay, I'm going through so much right now, I might not be having the best apartment or the best life right now, but that is still a potential for people who are trying in this country.
So regarding your question regarding future stability, permanent residences here, that's one point that I can say that as expatriates of different nations, that's one of the biggest drawbacks of Middle East. We do not get permanent residency here, even though if you have lived for a very, very long time here. If you're just thinking about career opportunities, you want to make money, this is a stepping stone for you to come here. But if you want to, think about, settling down here for good and building your own family here, it's quite difficult here because they do not have options for permanent residency here.
Thank you so much, Murtaza, for taking your time,
Thank you,
and
Vela, for having me.
we'll hopefully connect more in future
Sure.
on more such topics. If you have any questions for Murtaza, please drop it down in the comment section, and we will get him to answer them. And once this video goes live, I'll personally ask him to keep an eye on the comment section to give out some answers for our viewers, if you has anything in mind. And I'll put his Instagram handle in the comment section. If you want to ask him anything, then you can, if possible.
Sure.
Yeah, so that will be a good thing. Thank you so much, Mutasa, and
You're
it was
welcome.
great having you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.